properly.
Well, yeah, it looks like they are.
Yeah, it looks like they are. That's good. We finally got here.
Mm-hmm.
It was a journey. We'll see if this holds on. We might get disconnected randomly.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, it looks good.
Looks good.
Looks
All right.
good.
All right.
Looks like
Sorry,
we're
it's a little
live.
late, everybody. 8 o'clock. Oops.
Yeah, it took us a little while to get the freaking internet to work properly because it's been giving us a hard time. Even though last week we had no issues whatsoever, this week made up for it. More than made up for it, I'd say.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure. Yeah, looks. Yep. All right.
We're going to talk about some funny stuff today.
We're live on the internet. We got some funny stuff. But first, let's start with the serious stuff. Alex Jones.
Well, I don't know if this is serious, by the way.
It's pretty serious.
I wouldn't say it's serious. I would say it's stupid. That's what I would say.
It's serious that this is what the American justice system is doing.
Yeah.
It's blatant political persecution. And it's weird because it's not all that effective. So Alex Jones was ordered to pay $1 billion to Sandy Hook. It was like 965 or something like that. But
what's a few million between friends?
When you're at that level.
It's
right?
actually the rest is going to be for us.
But
I added us to the lawsuit.
That's good.
Yeah.
Someone had to.
Yeah.
This money doesn't exist, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had to disclose all of his finances for the lawsuit, which he did. They don't. InfoWars, Alex Jones, that this money doesn't exist.
Yeah. You should pay them in like InfoWars Bitcoins.
Yeah,
or
maybe
like
credits.
Cryptos.
Yeah, come up with an InfoWars cryptocurrency. That's possible. That could work. But this is one guy. And they're trying, there are so many cases of the media smearing and slandering and causing harassment and inciting violence, straight up inciting violence, and there's nothing comes of it. Not even like a criticism from like anywhere in the mainstream for any of that. Yeah. For like Kyle Rittenhouse, for Nick Sandmann. Joe Biden goes and says that MAGA Republicans are the biggest threat to America. And 2 weeks later, a guy runs down a kid with his car because he says he's a Republican extremist. Yeah. And nothing. Absolutely no accountability, no blame, nothing. But Alex Jones, worst case scenario, gets something wrong, apologizes about it, admits that he was wrong, explains why he thinks he got it wrong, and yet now they want to just completely destroy him for it. Why?
Yeah, it's
they could be going after like so many other people.
I mean, I understand. No, I understand. Like, I think he should pay for it. I think, I think what he said was pretty shitty. So I think he should pay. I don't think he should
pay any money except for to the one guy that he named.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Otherwise,
defamation.
Everyone else, like, there was only one guy that he named, and I think that guy should maybe be owed something. But here's a harsh punishment, right? I was thinking about this earlier today. A harsh punishment for this would be to look at InfoWars's, look at their the money that they're making for that time period or whatever, and take it like, okay, around the time where you were talking about this and you were spreading this, you made, say, $10 million, right? So say it's $10 million that InfoWars made. And so they're like, so what if you take that number and you more than double it and you say, okay, you owe this guy $25 million. We're going to make up for maybe you made some money later on because of it, or continuously gained fan base for it that added money. So now you're going to pay him $25 million. We're trying to siphon every dollar that you made off of this and give it to this person. That's a harsh punishment. And it wouldn't come close to $1 billion because InfoWars doesn't make that kind of money.
Sure, yeah.
And so
there's so many more reasonable ways to attack him. You could say, all right, yeah, this guy gets $10 million, and you've got to donate $10 million to such and such charity on behalf of this, or what, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things they could have done that's more logical. This is just absurd. But it just makes the whole thing absurd.
There's something about Alex Jones that they want.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like that they want him gone. Like it's weird. There are other people saying similar things to Alex Jones that they don't go after as hard. This is the real conspiracy theorists.
Well, they got him. They got him. In their mind, they're like, "This is the gotcha moment. We got you."
Yeah, even though you can't force somebody to pay money that they don't have, and
just dumb. It's just dumb.
But like the conspiracy theorist in me makes this kind of thing makes me think that Alex Jones specifically, because he was like the first guy to get banned off of everything, and he seems to be the first guy that they go after for all this stuff. He might have been the first guy that they took away bank accounts from. It makes me think that he specifically is saying something. There's something in what he's saying that is a little too close to reality that they don't want spread around. And that's dangerously close to reality. And then everybody else, because there's a lot of people that are like saying very similar things to Alex Jones that they don't go after them nearly as hard. Some of them are maybe even bigger than Alex Jones, like maybe Steve Bannon or Steven Crowder, or like whoever, right? They don't go after these people nearly as hard. They go after them, but they don't go after them nearly as hard. But they go after Alex Jones specifically.
I think it's because he's it's almost like he's unhinged a little. Like when you hear him talk, he sounds unhinged.
Right, so wouldn't that make
they might think he's an easier target to go after.
Well, but that also might make you think, like, why would they even go after him?
Well, just because
he's a self-evidently crazy
person.
Right,
but because he's an easier target, right? And because he stumbled into this one. This one, you're talking about kids, it's pretty awful. It's enough to get a lot of people on both sides pissed off that you could garner enough hatred toward him to make it stick, right?
Yeah, what gets me is the apologies and like the admitting that you were wrong, right? Like that
doesn't work. We already know that doesn't work.
Yeah,
apologies. He's better off than not even apologizing.
Well, yeah, but like it works for principled people like me and maybe you.
Well, no, that's what I mean, but it doesn't work against
like,
the woke mob, right? If people are coming after you, they don't care if you apologize.
Yeah, that's the minority of people.
Like you've got to grovel essentially, and you've got to be on the right side already.
Yeah.
Like when Jimmy Kimmel got in shit for his former blackface bullshit and stuff like that. Like it's like he apologizes in that, which I'm not against the fact that he could just apologize and get out of it. I'm totally for that because I think it's stupid that in the first place he did something like 20 years ago.
The crazy thing,
but what I'm saying though is he got away with it because his groveling is he's on the right side of the grovel.
That's what they
right?
wanted him to do. Yeah, the thing about Alex Jones that gets me is like nobody goes as far as he went when talking about the Sandy Hook stuff. Like, so he has his initial narrative that he came out with, and then at a later date in time, he's like, okay, yeah, I think I got that wrong. But he said that many times. But then he like goes even further. I think you can see it on like Joe Rogan back in 2016. He's talking about this. He says things like, he thinks at the time he was basically an alcoholic. He was drinking way too much. He was losing by his own perspective, he was losing grip on reality.
Yeah.
There's all these crazy things. And so, like, he's saying this. He's like, yeah, like, so here's everything that went wrong, and that's why I thought these things, and I was wrong. And he apologized for it. Like, that's huge.
Yeah,
like,
but there's no redemption.
Character,
there's no redemption for people that they hate, right? If they hate him, so they're looking for anything. They're not going to let him squirm out of this. They're going to try and keep the vice on him. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Just there's no
There's a third trial coming up.
That's what I mean. This just tells you
another $1 billion.
They're going to just keep squeezing him until he either kills himself or he just stops doing. Like in their mind, they're like, that's the end result for him.
Well, they are
please
trying to kill him.
Yeah,
because I think as a civilization, we're very detached from that.
Yeah.
From like outright murdering people, we become very civilized. So this is the alternative. This is kind of our society's version of that.
There's nobody I can say that I've ever hated so much that I'd be like, oh, I hope they die. Or like, I just like, even if I think what they're saying is stupid, like The View, for example. God, those twats, they're just the worst. You listen to them, they're just dumb. say stupid things, and they just
anybody. But I do think there's like a class of people that I would say that I hate enough to die. You know?
Not me. I think
people that do stuff to kids
well,
should probably die.
Well, that's different. That's like people on TV or
that's what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah. No,
there are people on TV that do that, but you just don't know about it.
Yeah.
They go to Epstein's Island. And
No, I'm with you. Like anybody who fucks around with a kid, sure.
Yeah. But in terms of like someone who just simply has a different opinion.
I don't care how bad your opinion is.
Like and I don't want you to lose your bank account, and I don't want you to lose your job.
Well, in certain cases, I kind of would like to see them lose their job.
Well, it depends on if their opinion is relevant to their job.
I wouldn't want to see them. Yeah.
Like, for example, if you got a politician and they're a communist, and you're like, you know what? I would like them to lose their job because I am not a communist and I don't want my representative to be a communist. Or like if you have a school teacher who's like, we need to teach kids about Marxism, maybe you do that. But when it's like, when it's someone on The View, was a shitty opinion, it's like, okay. I
kind of want to see that show go off the air. I mean,
I don't know.
Like, I wouldn't do anything actively.
Do they do well?
I don't know.
That's like I don't know either because everyone's always shitting on it, but like you underestimate.
I think it
the power
does
of, like, the middle-aged
well
housewife.
enough. Like you know what I mean? Like CNN and that where they're just doing well enough to survive, but they're not thriving. That would be my guess. I think it's daytime TV, right? It's on during the day, I think. So who's watching? You know what I mean?
Stay-at-home housewives.
Yeah.
Who aren't plugged into anything.
And that's
they're plugged into The View.
It's all going away.
Opinion. Yeah.
It's got a very short shelf life for these kinds of shows and stuff because TV essentially
especially the
is
more
going
entrenched in opinions that they don't.
These are 60, 70, and 80-year-old women that are watching this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sorry, 60, 70, and 80-year-old women. You're coming up. Yeah,
is coming.
Yeah, your life is coming to an end at some point in the next, 20, 30
years. Yeah.
Right? So bye View, right?
Yeah.
As their viewership declines due to their fan base dying off, well, it's going to go just the same way.
Yeah.
So like there's already the shift into like streaming and all that kind of stuff and just people watching shit on YouTube and smartphones and stuff. So nobody's really watching shows like that anyway. Because honestly, we're the type of society now where we don't have enough attention span to watch a whole show on something. We just want like 5 minutes of compressed news. And
that's weird, right? Like YouTube Shorts and TikTok and Instagram Reels. Facebook's now doing the Shorts thing. That takes like that. I don't know what's going on. I think it's a detriment to society, but that's what people want.
It's just quick information, right? They just want quick information. And it's funny because they don't
want
even absorb
nuance.
Half of it. They don't even absorb half it. They hear it or they'll read a headline or they'll hear one piece and that's it. So like there might be a 5-minute video on something and they'll be like, oh, did you hear such and such thing happen?
Even a 5-minute video would like usually leave out a lot of nuance. To get down to a 5-minute video, you usually got to cut some stuff out if you're talking about something that's even a little bit complex.
Yeah.
Right? You need like a 10 to 30-minute video. But
you know how many times I've asked people when somebody tells me about something and I'll go, oh, and I'll ask them like further details on it. They'll go, oh, I don't really know. Or I just saw it. I saw the ad or I just read this thing or I heard it or something.
Yeah.
Like, well, you didn't care to find out any more about it?
Yeah, I remember.
But it used to be back in the day where like if somebody said something, they give you the rest of the information. They'd be like, "Oh, this is happening, and this and this and this, and this is why." And whatever. You'd be like, "Oh, okay." You might not be interested.
Weird, and people. One example of this that I can think of in my recent life was I believe it was last Christmas. Me and my cousin were talking about Joe Rogan, and my aunt says something like, "Oh, isn't Joe Rogan that guy that thinks COVID is fake?" And we both just like kind of laughed at it because it's like I came back with a quip something like, "Well, that's what the news told you."
Yeah.
Because Joe Rogan took COVID very seriously. He had testing in his facility from day one. He was spending money on those tests. Mm-hmm. Like, there's this weird thing in our society now where people just kind of, I don't know what it is. Like, it seems obvious to me and you that like half of the shit that we see is bullshit. It's lies or it's misinterpretations or it's like stuff deliberately taken out of context. But so many people don't know that. They don't realize that. Like, they're just going about their day. They see in the news, Joe Rogan, a COVID denier, and they think, oh, interesting. Joe Rogan thinks COVID doesn't exist, right? They don't even really know who Joe Rogan is, or they just think of him as the Fear Factor guy, right? But maybe not anymore, because he's like over the last years
more the UFC guy now. I think people think of him. Maybe
I feel like the UFC crowd is more wouldn't buy that kind of stuff. They would know who Joe Rogan is on a deeper level.
I got a buddy who I play football with who always, like, if I say anything about Joe Rogan or something, he'll go, "Oh yeah, you watch Joe Rogan, of course you do." He'll say stuff like that, and I'm like, and I remember the one time
I am a guy that.
Well, I said that, and I go
long form discussions about
and I asked him,
topics.
I go, like, have you ever watched any? No. I'm like, well, then I guess your opinion means anything. Like,
well, you should You should have tried to get information out of him. Like, what does he think?
It's not.
What does he think Joe Rogan talks about? What do you think a guy like? What forms his opinion? Like, why does he?
That's
say
what I mean.
Right?
But people form an opinion. And they don't care to hear anything.
Yeah.
I hate when somebody.
I'm saying it from like just a fascination point of like a case study of a human being that is.
Well, it's like it'd be like somebody saying, "Hey, do you eat lasagna?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I eat," which I don't, but yeah, I eat lasagna, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, of course you wouldn't." I'm like, "Have you ever tried lasagna?" No, I've never tried it.
I've never tried lasagna.
Oh, okay. Well, then you've got a great fucking. That's a great stance to take there about lasagna. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why do you even have an opinion at all based on anything? Like, your opinion's based on what? Something somebody else heard? Or somebody else.
This is I use this term all the time. I don't know if people pick up on it when I use it, but I say that certain people's opinions are prescribed to them.
Yeah, they're formed by someone else.
It's a prescription. They go to their
I tell you what my opinion is, and you say, "Oh, I'm gonna."
No. I go to you, and you tell me what my opinion is.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
right? Yeah. So it's like you go to your news, you go to your fucking whatever website you go to, whatever YouTube you go to, whatever news outlet you watch, you go to them to have them tell you what to think.
Yeah. And
like there are people who genuinely are doing that. Like I don't know, it feeds my
That's why people like
NPC
Joe Rogan or even like Bill Maher are so misunderstood by people because they go, I don't know if I should like this person. Like they're supposed to be on my side. They're both Democrats, like essentially, right? Both liberals, and they would both arguably side on the Democratic side, like on the Democrat side in the States. That's where they would lean towards. But they have opinions on both ends of the spectrum. So it's like people look at them and go like, I don't know what camp they're in. I don't know if I should like this person or not.
Yeah.
Why can't you just be in the middle camp? That's where I lie. I lie in the middle camp. So I just don't understand why so many people have this weird thing about that. Like Joe Rogan specifically like that. Like, how is he polarizing in any way? Just listen to how he talks. Yeah, okay, maybe you might not like the bro-ness of him, that he likes fighting and he likes to smoke up and he works out.
Before. I think
but
there's the bro culture is
because
very...
Because it's being slammed right now?
It's written off.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's like you're taking like essentially masculine men who are pursuing a disciplined lifestyle and enjoy like typically manly things, and you're like you're almost saying that like must mean that they're dumb or something. And it's like, yeah, Joe Rogan sits down for 3 hours with, some of the smartest people in the world, and has a pretty in-depth conversation about very complicated things. And that's why he holds so popular.
His own really, really, really well.
Yeah. He knows a thing or two about what they're talking about.
He's intelligent. If you listen to him, he's an intelligent guy. But yeah, he doesn't fit that box.
It's almost like people who look at someone like Joe Rogan. It's like, okay, you look good, right? Because he's like fucking jacked, and you're successful, and you're talented because he's good at. He's like a good he's good at jiu-jitsu. Was he a normal? Was he a kickboxer? Or
No,
was
it was jiu-jitsu. He was.
That's what he was doing when he was like 20 or something.
Yeah, not even. He was like 16, I think, when he started. Or something.
Yeah, he like ended when he was 20. I think.
No, he was competitively fighting.
Yeah, but I think really young is when he gave it up because he like
20
he talks
21.
about seeing a guy get knocked down and being like, no, that's not for me. Yeah. But he's a successful comedian. He'll do arenas as a comedian, sell out arenas.
Which I think a lot of people don't really realize that he's a comedian, right? Because or that he was a comedian first.
Because his podcast blew up way past. He was a comedian before anything.
Before even.
But then his podcast just blew up past everything. And then I guess being on Fear Factor probably was the thing that most people recognized him for early on, and News Radio. Yeah. But probably more so Fear Factor than News Radio. And that's not necessarily associated with being a comedian, even though most game show hosts are. Mm-hmm. But people look at that and they feel immense jealousy because there are all these like traits that are like admirable and good. So they have to find something like, okay, well, if he has all of that, he must be stupid. Mm-hmm. He must be like an idiot or something like that. And they need to pretend like that's true, because if he isn't, that says something about them. Yeah. That says, there's something wrong with them, that they don't have all that other stuff, or at least some of those other stuff. Most people aren't going to make $100 million, right? So like you don't have to necessarily compare yourself to that, but everybody can get in shape and everybody can
it's a lazy society,
have stimulating
right?
conversations.
We're in a lazy society altogether. Lazy think, lazy act, lazy everything, right? It's like you want instant gratification. But
that's what these YouTube shorts are doing.
Yeah, you want people. Look at now; it's getting worse and worse and worse. People won't even go out to buy food anymore. They're getting food ordered to their house, or they're not even going out shopping anymore. They just go on Amazon and shop on Amazon. So it's like we're getting lazier and lazier, and just we don't really want to think about many things. I mean, well, I'm not saying us, but there's a big subsector of the population that doesn't want to.
It's the majority of people, or like it's people who get roped into that. Like, so it isn't necessarily that someone wants to be. It's like, okay, there are a lot of people that they don't necessarily want to be unhealthy, like they're trying to be healthy.
No, of course not, yeah.
But they don't know how to be healthy, and
they won't do the work. They won't look it up. They won't find the information.
Yeah, they're not doing the deep research. But the point is, like, you get people who can like become fat trying to not be fat because they're just doing everything wrong. They don't fully understand what they're doing. And I think that this is very similar in this instant gratification culture, where there are people who are like, they don't necessarily want to get consumed by it and have it like destroy them or harm them in any way. But at the same time, they don't really know how to go about not doing that, not allowing it. And then it just kind of, I don't know, blows up.
Fizzles off. Like you powered down there for a second.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say there, or how to properly cap that point off.
Yeah. But to bring it back to Alex Jones, I just think
they're trying to kill him.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah. Of course they're trying to crush him. They're going to use this and take it as far as they can. They'll probably try to go after future earnings or some bullshit like that.
But they can't.
But I think this all ends up having a backfiring effect because it keeps him in the news.
It's a Streisand effect.
Yeah, right? So, like, I don't understand how people don't learn from this shit. You're going to keep pounding this guy with bullshit that isn't going to stick anyway. Like, how do you get $1 billion out of somebody who doesn't have $1 billion? So you keep pounding with this shit, but all it ends up doing is making him more and more famous in the news and shit. People that wouldn't have heard
with all this PR, Alex Jones is going to make $10 billion next year once inflation really kicks in. Yeah. And then he'll just pay it like it's nothing. But that's the other thing. I think Tim Pool was talking about this like yesterday or today or something, where he was pointing out that like Alex Jones doesn't have $1 billion,
right?
And because he's Alex Jones and people want to hear what you have to say no matter what, he doesn't have to own InfoWars or any other company. Like, somebody else can come along and take ownership of InfoWars. They can't go after them for money. And they probably can't go after InfoWars. Maybe they can. So say it's not InfoWars. InfoWars dissolves. Someone else comes along. Maybe it's the Daily Wire. They're like, all right, Alex Jones, we're going to pay you $100,000 a year to do our show. but also we're going to pay for your,
Everything.
your apartment. We're going to pay for your food. We're going to pay for your cars. We're going to give you all these perks for working at the Daily Wire, but you're only going to make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so out of that $100,000 a year, they're going to sanction that. Maybe he's got to pay, 30 to 40 grand a year towards this $1 billion, but it doesn't matter because he's got a company credit card that he can go and spend however he wants. So like you can't
crush him.
You can't force it. Like if you really, that's the thing about the $1 billion. If you really wanted to hurt him, you go for what he has. You try to take what he has, but they're not. I don't get it. I don't know what's
I think
wrong
they just,
with these people.
yeah,
they're
I just
sick
don't.
People.
They don't know really how to hurt him. Like we're in such a weird time now where it's like they're trying to shut him down. So you deplatform him, whatever you do, like they did with Andrew Tate. You kick him off of everything, right? But it really doesn't change anything because if he wants to be on things, he just goes on some of the most popular other podcasts and talk to people and shit, and he stays just as
well. Alex Jones, he was the first to get banned off.
No, I know, right? But I'm saying, but it's the same sort of thing.
When it happened, he got bigger than he ever was before,
right? And that's
because it creates this Streisand effect. And so, he had his own website and everything. And that's where everybody went.
But in their defense, what do? Like they're trying to destroy him. They're simple. It's just simple people.
Yeah,
trying
they're dumb
to do
people
simple things.
trying to do something that they can't do. I mean, really, your only course of action is what the right is doing to the left, and that's win in the battlefield of ideas. Mm-hmm. But they know that they can't do that, so they have to try to be forceful and control the narrative.
And again, like I said, I'm all for him.
They can't control the narrative.
I'm all for him paying money to the guy he defamed, to the family defamed. I'm all for that. That's a stupid move, and hopefully Alex Jones is enough of a, he's not a punk and he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm okay with paying some money because I did defame. Like I'm going to own up to that. And again, if I were him, I might even just say, like, I might say, look, all right, I'll pay some future earnings even. I'll give this guy, like, for the next 5 years, I'll give him $2 million a year for the next 5 years as well or something. You know what I mean? Like, but it's, again, there's just no way to appease this mob because they're just going to try everything they can do to crush him.
Yeah, that's what the one guy was saying.
So
the whole point of this
doesn't serve
is to
the purpose.
Stop him from being able to do anything ever again. But you're never going to be able to do that.
Yeah, the purpose should be to make this family whole.
Like destroying America and taking away like the Constitution, and so you could just throw him in jail for nothing. You can't. Other than that, you can't do anything about him.
Yeah. And I don't understand what you're so afraid of anyway. Like that his ideas are gonna inspire some kind of rebellion, or like what the fuck are you like? Ideas are ideas. People have them all the time. There's all kinds of ideas everywhere. So what are you really worried about? Unless you're correct, and some of the shit that he said is so close to real, or is real, and it's so.
It has
to driving
be
a lot of
stuff.
Fear.
Like what I was thinking is that it could be stuff that even you and I would listen to and think, okay, that's crazy. That there's no way that's true. But maybe it is, and that's why they're going. And because he's the only one saying it, is the reason that they're really going after him. Mm-hmm. It's like he's the guy that they're going after for some reason. When there are all these other people, like they are going after these other people. There's censorship, shadow banning, blah blah blah. But nobody anywhere close to as hard as they are going after Alex Jones.
But they used to. So I mean, back before the internet was so prevalent, obviously, you had magazines like The Inquirer and things like that, and you'd see weird stories in The Inquirer, or The Examiner was another one. There were these weird sort of magazines, like paper magazines, that had these like the most fucking crazy stories ever. And I'm sure that's where you'd find like alien abduction stuff or UFO sightings, and those kinds of things would be in there. And out of those stories, sure, a lot of them are probably made up, but probably some of them are true or real accounts in some way. Maybe there's some of the information's incorrect or whatever. But, let's say some of it's true, but it's because it's in the Inquirer, people go, it's obviously fucking garbage. It's in this magazine that doesn't mean anything. It's kind of the same thing now when like Alex Jones says something and he's been typecasted as this irreverent fucking whatever. Like he's just he's off his rails a little. He's talking about, the frogs turning gay and stuff like that, which I'm not saying isn't actually true.
Yeah, but see, it's funny that
but
you.
It's funny the way he says it, though.
Yeah.
And it sounds so ridiculous.
He's an entertainer. He's an entertainer, and it sounds so ridiculous. But it's funny that you cite something that is actually true.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's a real thing.
I know.
That was happening. It's not. They aren't turning gay, but the chemicals making them hermaphroditic or something like that, affecting their endocrine
It's the way he says it makes it sound so ridiculous.
Yeah, because he's an entertainer. You take the sound bite of him doing the crazy thing, and you cut out the part where he's explaining what's going on, and you're like, oh, this guy's.
But this is what I'm saying, though. Because like you could just take that same approach where you just go, all right, he's going to have his sort of fringe audience of people that are going to listen to him. Leave him alone. You know, just don't make him more popular than he is. But then they do all this shit and they make him mainstream popular because people hear his name and shit. You know what I mean?
Put on my tinfoil hat a little bit, and so. What if that is true, right? So for the longest time, Alex Jones was this typecast guy that liked the Inquirer, but within some of the things that he was saying, little too close to the truth for them to want you to hear.
Yeah.
So they thought, okay, we don't want anybody talking about this stuff, so we got to get rid of this guy. So we find a reason. The Sandy Hook is the reason they cite for everything. We're gonna kick him off everything. We're gonna deplatform him. He's not gonna have an audience. Is what they're thinking in their mind. Obviously, that doesn't work. He becomes bigger than ever. Now they're like, oh fuck, what do we do now? So now it just ramps up and ramps up and ramps up. They got to try more and more and more.
What I don't get
they're creating this snowball.
Yeah. Why not just kill him then?
I think he's too big.
What do you mean? No, if you kill anybody, they killed presidents. President. You know, I mean, I don't think anybody's too big.
I don't think he's easy to get to without somebody within his vicinity, because he is definitely a guy that has a security detail. I don't think it's that easy to get to him and to kill him without somebody seeing something that, at the very least, even if they're really good about it, somebody seeing something who's close to him and coming out and saying, I think he was killed.
They got Epstein.
And that would cause an outrage.
They got Epstein. And he was in
Did they, though?
And he was in a prison.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he should have been the most
But
safe.
Epstein was one of them.
He was probably thinking, when he was in prison, he was probably thinking, you know, when he was in his own prison cell by himself, he was probably thinking, at least I'm safe here. Who's going to get me? Who's going to get me here?
Thought that.
I'll bet you he did. I'll bet you he thought that.
Yeah, maybe, but...
Because you're thinking you're in prison, at least they can't.
The thing about Epstein is he was one of them. So they took out one of their own.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a different thing when you take out one of the other.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's how you start.
Yeah,
you start a little bit of unrest.
Yeah, but you know what though? It'd be like short term. I feel like unrest. People forget shit.
Yeah,
I'm not suggesting anything like that. I like the guy, so I hope nothing like that ever happens.
I love
but I'm saying, like, in the mind of the unsatiable pitchfork carrying bloodthirsty mob.
Yeah.
You think that there's somebody in there with the means and the ability, like a Soros or something like that, with the means to be able to say, all right, I'm going to put somebody up to this, get an incel that maybe is suicidal, and tell him, hey, listen, your mom, whose basement you're living in, she's taken care of forever now. You just have to go do this thing. You're going to get probably caught. You might get killed, whatever. But your mom is taken care of forever. And if you do get away with it, you're going to have the most immaculate basement you've ever seen, bud. And girls, you're going to have some girls, buddy.
You have girls on the other side of the prison walls.
Anyways. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, especially on the next one.
All right.
Oh, we get to a little bit of a...
Let's move on
of to a heartier...
a little bit more lighthearted.
Funny topic that I just
What is vabbing?
Yeah.
I heard about this a while ago.
So you heard about
probably
it.
Probably when it first sort of popped up. Vabbing.
Let's piece this out. Vab. It's a creative put together of two words.
Yep. So let's
vaginal dabbing.
Let's just see here. Vaginal dabbing is the art of strategically placing vaginal fluid in key areas like behind the ear or on the wrist as a way of attracting a mate. Think of it as your own personal supply of pheromone perfume. I think the idea here isn't entirely retarded.
No.
As ridiculous as it sounds, like, oh, why would you do that? I think there's something about it. It's trying to hack the brains of the other sex by putting those primal pheromones there.
What if you got a little vaginosis going on?
Is that where it's all smelly? Yeah. That might not work.
Yeah.
Or it might get the wrong kind of people. It might just really set off the wrong kind of person.
What the fuck is that smell?
So I think that's the idea, is that you kind of try to hack the male brain by putting a very natural scent, make it a bit of a more primal thing in there. But that's gross.
It's fucking weird.
I don't know what else to say. It's gross. It's pretty disgusting.
Why are women trying so hard? I didn't think they had to try so hard.
Oh, they do though.
Do they?
Yeah, because of the way the dating market works right now. Where it's like 10% of the men get all of the women, so the women are competing for those 10% of the men. So they don't have to try hard to get sex,
true.
But
they want the attention.
They want
of those
more.
10%.
They want more than sex. They want to lock down a mate, but the only people that they're considering as potential mates are the guys that get all of the girls. And so, yeah, so they're trying so hard because they've made it a very competitive game for themselves.
I've been pabbing lately.
Pabbing.
Yeah, I've been pabbing.
I've been doing that my whole life.
Yeah, you're doing a little pabbing. You've been doing it by accident. I have a particularly splashy ejaculate.
Splishy, splashy. Sometimes it's a little powerful. That's a real thing that that people say about men is if you have high testosterone. If you have high testosterone combined with semen retention. Which
I actually do. I do retain my semen now.
Like on purpose?
Deep down inside, because it can't get through my vas deferens anymore. It can't get out.
But so the semen retention, high testosterone, and then like having a relatively healthy body, the natural scent of that, people say is like the most attractive scent that you get when you kind of combine these sort of habits.
I feel like if I'm standing behind a woman, because I have those things.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm standing behind a woman, she's gonna be like, and then she's gonna turn and go, oh shit.
They might. It's like that Family Guy scene where Quagmire is standing behind that girl. And she like looks all tight and hot, and she turns around. And she's an absolute blob. She's like, ew.
They just turn around. And they're like, oh, damn it. Like, is there someone else that
is
there a 6'5"
coming
Adonis around here somewhere where that smell's coming from?
Yeah.
I get up real close and I go, oh, it was you. Damn it.
God damn.
All right, forget it.
Forget it. You got my hopes up for nothing.
I wasted this vabbing for nothing.
That's just gross.
By the way, you smell.
Yeah. Yeah, this is gross.
It's definitely a weird thing. I just found it weird, like I said, because I didn't even think about that perspective that women are trying for the upper echelon of men.
Yeah,
I guess online dating
they're competing for less men because online dating expands your access to men.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas before you were kind of restricted to people of your own age.
It really is a good equalizer. Online dating, it really is a good equalizer. Like back in the day, it was like really tough. Like I mean, you're trying to. How do you meet a woman, right?
Well,
like,
yeah.
Back in the day, you have to go and actually go up to them. Fear of rejection, all that shit. Like what, in a club or something like that? At school, work.
But that was the equalizer. Online dating.
No, I think it's
it.
No, I'm saying it's the great equalizer in this way because before women had all the control. Like it was like you're waiting, and it was like very rarely, and it was actually kind of a societal. You were looked down upon in society as a woman if you were aggressive and would like ask out a man or something. It was like, you're some kind of whore. Like, what are you doing? Like it was a weird sort of thing. So like I remember as a young adult, even if a woman would come at me or ask me out or I was like, ooh, aggressive woman. Like I found it a turn on personally. Yeah. But I know a lot of guys would be like, oh, that's a turn off. Like she's too aggressive.
My thing has been every time it's happened to me, it's been someone a little bit trashy.
Well, see what I mean? But that's
so
that's the general consensus. I think of a lot of guys would think that.
Well, but it wasn't that she was doing it that made her trashy to me.
She just was trashy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Like there's one girl that I was thinking specifically thinking about the moment I first
say
saw
her name.
I don't even know her name.
I'm kidding.
I don't even know her name.
I wouldn't ever. Anyway.
No, she was a friend of a friend, and the first time that I saw her, I thought, oh, she's trashy. Because she had like a fucking muffin top kind of thing going on. She was overweight, but she was also wearing a tight crop top, and it was just not a good look. And like I immediately thought, oh, trashy. And then she was like really aggressive. I was like, yeah, this amplifies it, but I would rather you not be doing this.
She's like, hey, you want to go? No,
I don't want to.
No, I don't.
No, she formally offered. She through a friend offered to give me oral sex, basically. Yeah.
She probably should have vabbed. You might have been into it.
Maybe if she tried that. Maybe she did that, and that was like what put me off.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe she had vaginosis.
I feel like that's trashy.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. But like I said, the great equalizer though is the online thing, because now men and women are equal there. Essentially, I mean, it's still not exactly, but it's closer to equal.
The problem is what we're seeing is that it's important for women to be in control of the sexual marketplace, and it's important for them to be more conservative about how they approach sex.
Maybe that's why the masculinization of men is happening. Maybe it's actually women trying to make us, less empowered, if you will.
Well, on some level, that is true, because that's like something that women do. I don't know if you've noticed this, but they kind of push men to be feminine. Well, in certain ways, but they don't respect you when you do.
Right. That's what it is. It's
so like they kind of like
they want the man's man.
It's like when you're in high school and you got your female friend, she's gonna tell you like to act in all these ways to attract women. She's like, oh yeah, girls love a guy that's like this, that, and the other way. But she's basically telling you to be like the nice guy who's like safe and like
she's sabotaging you.
There's nothing there.
She's sabotaging
you. She's sabotaging you. But when you act that way, any guy that acts that way, she doesn't respect at all. Right.
It's like they want that nice guy to marry.
Yeah.
It's like it's the fuck. Who would you fuck? Who would you marry? Who would you kill?
Marry, kill.
Fuck, marry, kill.
It's all different.
So they're like, I want to fuck the asshole. The good-looking
the same
fucking 10%er.
Women are always like, this is a great example in recent culture. Women are always talking about how like men should be more in touch with their emotions and cry more and whatever. But then Jordan Peterson cries on Piers Morgan and they rip into him for it. The same people that say that men need to be more emotional. It's like, okay, well there you go. Like you're literally just setting men up, and it's a test. It's female nature is to like test the man. It's like how far, like if I push him, is he going to push back? Is he going to resist? Right? Because they want you to do that. They want to know that you're strong and you're secure and you're sturdy, and because then they feel comfortable around you or safe. So I think a lot of men now in our society have been pussified by that, because they're listening.
I like pussified.
They're listening.
Good. Yeah.
And they're being told that being masculine is wrong or evil.
Maybe it's a good way to filter them out too. You see the ones that were
shitty men.
Well, okay, so because there's a lot of guys out there that are posers, right? A lot of guys that kind of they try and act like they're an alpha or they're tough or whatever. And the minute you lean on them, they fucking crumble, right? Maybe these are the guys now that are actually going, oh, cool. I can just kind of, I can fall into that like effeminate sort of man where I actually am. And society is going to accept me there.
Yeah, I could wear a dress.
Lies. Or I can wear a skirt. I
could wear a skirt.
Like what was that? What was that dude's name?
I don't remember.
Harry Styles.
Harry Styles.
Yeah, he wore a skirt. I don't care what you say. That's not masculine.
No.
It's never catching on. I mean, it did catch on with the Scottish.
Some people.
It did catch on.
That's a different thing, because kilts are longer.
Yeah.
And it's freeing.
But there's something fucking weird.
To feel your balls in the wind.
There is something weird. Have you worn a kilt? No. There's something fucking weird about that, though. That it's like Scottish men wearing the fucking kilt seem pretty fucking masculine to me.
Yeah, because it's the way it's performed.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. There's it's not. I wouldn't look at a Scottish guy in a kilt and be like, you fucking feminine queer or something. I wouldn't. I wouldn't think that. I'd be like, oh, that's.
I think that's where the skirt came from.
From.
Originally,
Oh, yeah?
From like something like that. Because like a lot of female, I don't know, trends, or I don't know if trend is the right word. Like
fashion
things like high heels, and I think purses, stuff like that. All started out as things that like men were doing, and then women started doing it. So I think a lot of these. And so I think a kilt might have been
wigs,
the precursor to the thing.
Men started wearing wigs.
Well, everyone
royalty,
royal
men.
No, it was the aristocracy.
Yeah,
well, and it was because everyone had syphilis, and so it was the wealthier you were, the bigger your wig was. It was weird. It was a weird time.
Weird times.
It was a weird time to be alive.
Yeah, I feel like I was around.
Yeah, I remember those days.
I feel like I was around.
You had your syphilis wig.
It wasn't me, but I was around.
Yeah. Well, everything is all of us. We are one.
That's true. That's true. That gets us into the old times.
That's true.
Was
a
good segue.
And our timing is perfect.
A good segue to this.
Yeah.
I went on a tangent last night of just watching videos.
Tangent or rabbit hole? Rabbit hole, because you weren't on a tangent.
That's true.
Because you were by yourself.
That's true.
Unless you were with Chrissy, but
fair enough. I was not. No, I was by myself. So you
were by yourself.
I was by myself.
Going down a rabbit hole.
I was going down the rabbit hole. All right, fine, smarty pants. I was going down the rabbit hole of ancient fucking civilizations, and thanks to Meta and its algorithm, it just kept giving me the next one, and it was talking all about like roughly 11,000 years ago or something like that.
Do you know who was talking? If any,
I can't remember because I watched so many. There was I remember I got this one. Her name was Javanna James, I think, or something like that, and then she was doing.
No, Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson.
I know those
about
two.
This a lot,
but so to bring people up to speed, around 11 to 12,000 years ago was sort of the end of the last ice age. The end of the last ice age, fast melt off essentially, and they feel like that a cosmic event.
That's controversial.
Happened. Yeah, well,
it's controversial that it happened quickly.
Yeah,
there's a lot of evidence that does suggest that it did happen quickly. Like this I'm referencing.
But listen,
Randall
stop
Carlson
going into
now.
that for a second, because I want to get my premise out at least before you start debunking it, because you're already debunking it. But this was the sort of premise that 11 to 12,000 years ago there was a cataclysmic event. An asteroid hit the Earth, and it caused a massive melting of the polar ice caps, which raised the ocean level. They were saying around 100 feet, but you were saying something about up to like 200 feet or something. 100
feet is what I heard.
But anyways, so they were saying around 100 feet, which would explain buried underwater civilizations.
Because all the cities would have been on coast.
Yeah. So they're talking about, there was 4 different ones they were talking about.
What I was saying though was supporting that.
It sounded like you were debunking it.
No. The idea is that I believe it's a comet, and I think they say it was more than one impact. Probably roughly northwest Canada. They found some craters that might be associated with this, but they don't really know. They don't really have a solid impact point. Although there is in the ground, there are certain things that form when there's a meteor impact that there is evidence of an impact 11,500-ish years ago. And so what they're saying is that all this energy and heat melted the ice, fast tracking the end of the last ice age, and then all of this ice would have like flowed down North America essentially and rose ocean levels by like 100 to 200
massive
feet
tsunamis
within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we're talking massive because now there's evidence for this because
even the mammoths too.
Yes.
So what happened to the mammoths? They were saying where their legs were all broken.
Yeah.
So they were and they hypothesized.
One of them was knocked on his back. His one hand had been was like stuck in the mud. It had been ripped off. There was food in his mouth that he was chewing at them. He was killed instantly, knocked back into the ice, and then he froze.
But the weird thing is, their hypothesis was that hunters were killing them by breaking their legs somehow. Like, what the fuck? There was a whole rage where people were eating mammoth meat, where they were finding
there are death fields of mammoths that we wouldn't have done that. We wouldn't have had the ability to do that, nor it'd be stupid to kill like 100 mammoths all at once, because you can't eat that before it all rots away. So you want them to be alive so that your food humans understood that. But there are in the United States, in certain places in the United States, I forget exactly where, certain hilly regions. If you go up really high and you look down, you'll notice that the way the hills are shaped, it looks exactly the same way that like sand forms under the water. So it's pretty much direct evidence that a massive amount of water flowed over there because water creates that formation. And given the size of the patterns, it suggests, like, I forget what Randall Carlson was saying, but I think it could, like, up to a mile deep of water just like flowing. There's
something like that at the Grand
really
Canyon
fast.
too, when they've pulled or they've done samples of parts of the Grand Canyon where they say that part of that was underwater at one point too.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, some weird shit like that.
I think on one of the Joe Rogan episodes with Randall Carlson, he pulls up this. It's not the Grand. It was like a canyon.
Yeah.
And he says that it's definitely water erosion that caused the formation, but he's saying that this whole thing could have been formed within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Rather than
fast,
rather than millions of years,
exactly.
like they suggest. Which is absolutely crazy to think about. And then it also times perfectly with Atlantis, because Plato is the first. Our first reference of Atlantis comes from Plato, and he describes. I forget how the time works, but however many thousand years ago, Plato says, however many thousand years ago, the city of Atlantis was like flooded, and the timeline fits perfectly with 11,500 years ago from now. So, like, if we're going to sit here today and say, well, if this had happened and Atlantis existed, then it would have been flooded about 11,500 years ago. And then you go back however many thousands of years ago Plato was, maybe 6,000 years or something like that, whatever the hell it was, is still perfectly in line where, like, the legend is of this, puts us at that time, that 11,500 years ago. Which is
what the funny thing is, it's not even just Atlantis. There's other.
Atlantis is like the famous one that everyone knows about. That no one knows if it was real or not. But yeah, there are other cities. The flood myth is all over the world.
Yeah.
So we don't really know because we haven't been looking along the coasts, and that's where we might find a lot of stuff, a lot of cities. They would just be. However far into the coast.
I find it very bizarre that we don't. We're very concerned about like space and stuff, but we're not even all that concerned about 80% of our planet that's underwater. You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we constantly doing expeditions, like detailed expeditions?
I think we are to the same extent that we're going into space.
Well, but it shouldn't be.
Which
it should
is relatively
It should
low.
be times 50 because it's right here. It'd be easy enough to do it. You know what I mean?
Well,
we have submersibles.
Well, I guess you can make the argument that's looking backwards, and while that's useful and important and interesting and fascinating,
well, it's good for understanding, just different things and how like our history and how we formed and stuff. Yeah. If we could find out,
I think that's arguably a lot less useful than figuring out how to manufacture on the moon.
Sure, but then you look at, and then there's this other. Part of the sort of discussion that was brought up. If humans have been around for around 300,000 to 400,000 years, roughly, that's what the scientists the idea is.
I think the oldest anatomical human was found 300,000 years ago.
Yeah, or something like
but that was relatively recent. Before that, it was like 200,000. So we could be going back half a million.
But let's just use
Plus,
that.
we were close to humans.
Yeah, let's just use that number. Let's just use 300,000, right? So to say that for 300,000 years, basically humanity, humanoids or whatever, did nothing.
Actual humanity.
This. Yeah.
Humanoids would have been millions of years.
Right?
Because we wouldn't have made a dramatic leap in a single year.
But anyways, you look at that, and then all of a sudden it's like this. It would beg to argue the point that perhaps it did this.
Yeah. There are... This is very obscure and it's very on the periphery of my memory. But I do believe that there are legends in certain ancient cultures, particularly Eastern cultures, because they're like some of the oldest, that, for one, they talk about things in weirdly huge timelines. Like in Hinduism, they have a word like a year is, a year, right? We have a word for that amount of time. They have like a term for, okay, so there's like a year, a decade, a century, right? They have a term for like 1 billion years. So like 1 billion years is one thing. It's like, why?
Yeah.
And they have all these weird ones. And I think that there are stories of civilization or like of kings or kingdoms, whatever, going back, 40, 50, 100,000 years. In some instances, maybe even longer. But we kind of write that stuff off as like, oh, it's just fiction, right? Because we know that human beings haven't existed for that long. But maybe there's some stuff going on. Maybe it's very cyclical. Maybe civilization rises and falls.
Maybe we didn't exist on this planet.
Yeah, it's possible. We could have
Maybe
started
we moved from another
Mars.
planet. Who knows?
Yeah, well, you get into remote viewing, the concept of remote viewing, and that's an interesting thing because they get a lot of stuff right sometimes, like eerily, and one of the things that you can't verify was a remote viewing experiment done by, I think it was Igor Swan, or something like that is his name. He's like known as like the best ever. He was a part of the Project Stargate, which was the United States remote viewing program that they did. He did a viewing one time where the way it works is you don't know the location. You're just kind of given a number, but the number has an association to a location. And the location that they gave him was like Mars, like 1 billion years ago or something. And he was describing like this weird people in the civilization, and they were dying, and they had these strange structures. Like he described basically a whole civilization on Mars through remote viewing. Now, obviously, this isn't verifiable because we can't go back in time and see. But it's interesting to think about the possibility that maybe civilization arose on Mars and then came here as a alternative because something happened to the Martian atmosphere. They couldn't live much longer. And maybe that's the premise of the Ark in the Bible, because Ark stories go back way farther than that. So there's maybe ideas that the Ark was a spaceship that came from Mars to preserve civilization. Who knows?
It's interesting. I mean, it'll be so fucking cool when we finally get to Mars and we're able to actually take samples, like soil samples, and
we already have soil samples.
Well, I mean, real, like that's what I'm saying, like real samples, not just fucking topical.
We already know there was water there and shit, and there's probably trees. So I mean, like, there's.
But imagine if they found some fucking shit. They found some living shit on Mars. Man, that would change.
I feel like they have, like, there are weird pictures of things that almost look like creatures that have come through some of the rovers.
All of a sudden, I got like imagine there's a fucking little Martian fucking thing.
But that's like, that's like it almost seems like there are pictures of stuff like that, and people, NASA will come out and say, oh, it's a rock formation, but you look at the image, you're like, man, that's a weirdly
looks like a big fucking beetle.
Or, well, the one that I'm thinking in my head kind of looks like a spider thing, or like a crab. It's like that size-ish, is at least what it looks like in the thing. But it could just be stuff that lives underground and doesn't really come up to the surface all that much because maybe because the atmosphere is thinned out and the radiation is high.
Yeah, we have such a simplistic idea of what creates life. We don't, just because we think of carbon-based life forms, like we don't know. There could be all kinds of different
or carbon life forms could be fucking everywhere.
Well, it could be, but I'm saying, well, carbon's not an easy element to create, right? Like helium and methane and shit are much more abundant in the universe, right? Yeah. So the idea that there could be a methane-based organism or life chain. There's different life created from helium or from methane or something.
I think life probably starts within a planet and makes its way outward. Yeah. So, but you have to have very specific conditions to have life living on the surface.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that there are probably a lot of places where there's life deep within, as long as there's an active core, because that gives you the heat to support the life. That's the constant flow of energy.
But maybe not. Maybe they don't need that.
Well, maybe they don't need that, but even with that, to have that constant flow of energy at the core, that, and if life kind of starts there and makes its way out towards the surface, then it's basically everywhere. Like, it's literally all over the place, because most planets probably have that magma core. It's the small stuff that doesn't really have the active core. Like,
well, you just think about animals and creatures on this planet, what they're able to do, what they've adapted, and just like an octopus or just like shit like that can, like, they can change their fucking body chemistry and shit just instantly to adapt or like a chameleon or something. Like, is it so outlandish to think that there are creatures out there that might be able to create chemical reactions and shit, take methane and rework it into another chemical or whatever, right? I mean, shit does it on this planet already, right? Like, we do it. Fuck, we convert oxygen into carbon dioxide. Like, that's a chemical reaction. Yeah. What's to say that there aren't other?
Life as we know it is a constant chemical reaction.
That's what I mean. So, like, who's to say that? Who's to say that another fucking creature can't take a less or more abundant chemical in the universe and change it to something that they can use for life? Yeah. Like, it's interesting shit. Yeah. I can get on a fucking tangent with this kind of stuff. I can go down a rabbit hole for sure. But last night was funny because I didn't really explore the Atlantis and that shit too much. Like, I knew a little bit about it, but I never really did too much. I've never done too much exploring on it. But what really surprised me is how many different, sort of, I'll say, known sites under the water that they know that are likely were created by ancient civilizations. Yeah, but they haven't really spent a lot of time sort of really exploring them, which is fucking crazy.
I think it's because it's really difficult.
Well, one of them's like 65 feet down.
Yeah, it's like really hard to... Well, it's 65 feet down, but it's underwater and most of it's buried. It's hard enough to excavate an area. It's like 100 to 1,000 times harder to do it underwater.
We build fucking... Dubai was built. Dubai was water. They brought land to the water.
That's a different.
Like, we can do anything we want to fucking do. Yeah. They could get fucking shit and cut the whole damn fucking thing and bring it up out of the water if they really wanted to. Like, it's astounding to me that we don't give a shit.
We should at the very least be looking for them with, like, ground penetrating radar, like, just going all over the place to kind of see what comes up. Like, have you seen what they did in the jungle? I think the Amazon or something, they had this penetrating radar. So the radar goes right through the trees and everything. So they kind of flew over with this radar, and they found, like, all of these structures that they didn't know about before, like cities that they didn't even know were there because they're covered up by the desert. And even if you were to walk through there, you wouldn't know because they're, like, buried with shit and covered up with shit. But they could see all these cities and roadways and structures all over the place. So it's like, I wonder if we could do something similar along the coast.
Of course we could. We could if we had the will to do it. You could create essentially a fucking basin and suck the water out, and then have it a fucking archaeological site where they could do whatever the fuck they want. You just create this massive...
Whenever they find something, that's what they should be doing.
Why not? Yeah. Like, I don't understand why we don't. Like, we just don't... There's not enough energy put into this kind of thing.
Probably not an obvious upside.
It's not economically viable.
There's no way to make money off it. You got to spend billions of dollars, and you're not going to make it back.
But NASA, when they were spending fucking billions for the space program, they weren't making any of that money back.
At first, no, but that had a what was it? It was like a competitive sort of thing.
Oh, the space race.
Show that we're better than the Soviets.
Yeah.
But
we weren't making any money that way. We were spending money.
Well, yeah, we were at the time, but we now know, like, that led to so much wealth in society, like through technological developments, like the microwave became small enough that you could put in a home, and microchips made massive leaps that kind of led to the computer. It was kind of the computer on the Apollo spacecraft were like the precursors to modern day computers, like all sorts of stuff like that. Being forced to solve those problems,
the innovation
led to that. So like we kind of have the precedent
Fair
of
enough.
like, okay, if we do that, it might not seem like we're making money now, but some of the innovations that we're going to make to accomplish that goal is going to lead to that. Could be very similar with excavating stuff from the ocean, but we don't necessarily.
We might find some lost technology down there that we we don't even know.
Maybe, but that's probably a little bit unlikely.
Probably.
That's a bit of a stretch. Even if there was technology, it probably like is destroyed. Like this laptop wouldn't survive very long. It wouldn't survive.
Completely degrade. Yeah. Already is
But,
degrading. And it's above land.
Yeah. it can't handle the atmosphere.
It just can't handle it.
But yeah, we're at about an hour 5 minutes.
All right, it's a good time to end it. I think.
Good time to end it.
Sorry again, we're late today, but that's Tyler's fault. He's an asshole.
That's my fault.
Yeah, it's always your fault.
I made the computer be a
dick. Whatever. You were here late anyway.
Next time,
here late anyway. It was gonna be late.
I told you I was gonna be late.
It's gonna be late anyway. You tell the audience. You tell the audience of no one.
I told all of them.
So everybody.
Restart your laptop next time before we do it.
Yeah,
that might help. That seemed to solve our issue because this went pretty smoothly.
Yeah. All right. Well, like us, share us,
come say hi,
subscribe. Yeah.
Tell us why we're
idiots.
comment
on some stuff. Tell us why we're dumb.
Let us know.
we like being told why we're dumb.
Yeah, and we'll tell you why you're wrong, or we'll be smarter for it.
We will definitely respond.
Yeah,
we will respond. We read the comments.